The convicted mastermind behind Minnesota's $250 million welfare fraud scheme just dropped a bombshell that could end Tim Walz's political career. Amy Bach, facing decades behind bars, is not going down quietly. She's pointing fingers straight at the governor's mansion, claiming Walz and his cronies knew exactly what was happening while taxpayer money flowed like water to Somali terrorists. But here is the part that will make your blood boil, because this is not just about missing money. This is about your family's future being stolen right from under your nose. While you're working overtime to pay your bills, $250 million in welfare funds got funneled overseas through an elaborate scam the state officials apparently watched happen in real time. We're talking about money meant for hungry American kids getting shipped to Somalia while Walz played dumb. And here's what really stings. They caught one smuggler with $800,000 in cash at the airport. How much more walked right through? This scandal proves what we have suspected all along. The swamp creatures don't just ignore corruption, they enable it. Every dollar stolen is a dollar taken from legitimate American families who actually need help. Now, speaking of never surrendering in the face of corruption and lies, you ever see something and instantly know it's going to turn heads? That's exactly what happened when I saw these Trump never surrender gold sneakers. Now, these aren't subtle, and they're not supposed to be. Gold finish, red, white, and blue details, never surrender right on the shoe. You put these on, you're making a statement about who you stand with. While swamp creatures like Walz are busy covering up fraud scandals, real Americans are standing up and fighting back. These shoes represent that fighting spirit, that refusal to back down when the establishment tries to steamroll us. They're conversation starters, they're head turners, and a daily reminder that we don't quit. Get yours at themagaoffers.com/NNN before they are gone. Now back to this explosive scandal. Yes, it gets worse. Minnesota's Attorney General Keith Ellison, the same guy who should have been investigating this fraud, actually authored legislation making it easier to send money overseas to Somalia. We've got him on video talking about keeping money flowing to Mogadishu. Then there's the defendant who literally asked the judge to deport him instead of serving 30 years in an American prison. The judge said, absolutely not. You're serving every single day right here. Now, we have an update in the stunning announcement. House GOP chairwoman Lisa McClain dropping a bombshell on Minnesota Governor Walz. Let's hear what she has to say.
Democrats took money from our kids. Democrats took money from your kids, the kids who need it most, dumped it into fraudulent daycare facilities, and turned the other way when this abuse was reported. This has been their pattern, so this really shouldn't surprise anybody. But what's happening there is absolutely disgusting. Tim Walz can announce that he won't run again for governor, but he will still be held accountable by House Republicans. And that's exactly what we're doing this week in the House Oversight Committee.
Now that just sets the stage. And it sets up a key question. How did this massive fraud happen under Walz's watch? Our next source reveals a shocking admission from his own administration. Tim Walz, appointee in charge of the state's accounting and finances, said they don't have the tools to hold agencies accountable for fraud, despite it being their job. Get ready for this.
You view your role as supporting agencies to do their job, but not holding them accountable. Am I understanding that?
Madam Chair, we do not have a tool to hold agencies accountable.
So what would that tool be? What do you need? Because under statute, that is your responsibility for internal controls. So if you don't have the tools and it's yet your statutory responsibility, like, what do you need?
I want to be clear that when you look at the state statute, subdivision 8 of 16A.057 specifically states that the head of each executive agency is responsible for designing, implementing, and maintaining an effective internal control system within the agency that complies with the requirements of the subdivisions. I mean, I know you're asking the question of what what do we need to hold agencies accountable? I would view that differently, and that would be to say, what do we need for agencies to be successful?
Okay, I would just like to point out that in statute 16A 057, it says the commissioner, meaning of MMB, is responsible for the system of internal controls across the executive branch. Sub 1, safeguard public funds and assess and assets and minimize incidents of fraud, waste, and abuse. That is the responsibility of the commissioner of MMB.
And Chair Robbins, the way that we do that is by creating a framework for agencies to use and providing support and resources and tools for them to use in order to identify and implement their own internal controls.
And when they fail at that, what do you do?
Go ahead.
Chair Robbins, what we do is
What do you do?
step in with support.
We step in with support. Yeah, well, you didn't do anything. Now we're seeing the system failure in action. Walz's own appointee admits they can't stop the fraud. But the story gets deeper than just Minnesota. As our next tweet shows, Rich has done more journalism in Maine in just a few months than the entire staff of the Bangor Daily News is in years. The media helped create the permission structures that prevented normal working people from questioning why home health care and autism homes have become high-risk elements and fraud abuse. Remember those zombie offices?
We're here in Portland, Maine. We found of the businesses that are registered in here, of the 20-something businesses, 10 of them are home healthcare businesses. As you can see, Prestige Home Care, Bright Star Home Care, Atlantic Community Support, 5 Stars Home Health Care, Prime Home Care, LLC. It's a trend we saw in Minnesota, one that the Minnesota House Oversight Committee on Fraud tells News Nation is a giant red flag. Large clusters of healthcare providers in one location. This building right behind me has 22 different home and community-based healthcare companies registered in the building. Inside this Portland office building, owner Ron Nevins agreed to speak with us.
I think I got 10.
I think I got 10.
Half, maybe a little less than half of this building.
Healthcare, home healthcare. I didn't even know what home healthcare was. Do you think these businesses are actually legit businesses?
Some, yes, but some I highly question. Nobody's ever.
I highly question. The media's silence angle is crucial here. Notice how this connects to a broader pattern of fraud that's being covered up. Sean Hannity's team has been tracking the story with whistleblower testimony. James Comer says whistleblowers have exposed welfare fraud in Minnesota, alleging state leaders knew about it and warning taxpayers are fed up with the waste and lack of transparency. Here's Comer with Hannity.
Started in Minnesota investigating fraud with respect to the welfare benefits because we've had some brave whistleblowers who have come forward. These are credible whistleblowers who are employed by the state government. They're overwhelmingly Democrat, and they're bringing lots of documents forward that not only prove there was fraud, but also implicate, in my opinion, the fact that both Governor Walz and Attorney General Ellison knew about it. I think this is happening in every state, but especially in the blue states, because it doesn't seem that the Democrats care as much about wasteful spending as Republicans do. And I think the American people are sick and tired of their tax dollars being wasted and expect people to do something about it and be held accountable.
And that's why they're holding hearings. That's why the subpoenas from the grand juries are going out. Comer's whistleblower investigation just getting started, but the fraud scandals are erupting everywhere. Georgia just had its own bombshell revelation that shows this is a nationwide problem. Fraud exposed in Georgia. You will not believe what just went down in the SEB 2023-025 case. For years, this bombshell about duplicate ballots in Fulton County was silenced, but finally, Joe Rossi got his shot. He demolished the cover-up with cold, hard proof. This state election board meeting that just occurred.
The The next question was at the May 7th, 2024 hearing, Ms. McGowan stated that the investigation also shows that there are some duplicate ballot images that Fulton County provided, and this suggests that some ballots may have been scanned more than once. But what cannot be decided conclusively or confirmed conclusively is whether or not those duplicate ballot images were included in the count. Such an assertion, that's her end of her quote. Such an assertion by Ms. McGowan after nearly 2 years of investigation was either disingenuous or grossly negligent. The fact is that at least 3,125 ballots that the complainants have identified were scanned twice and counted twice. This is easily corroborated by the records. For every ballot that is successfully scanned and counted, a ballot image is produced with a unique file name. Included in the tabulator image is a page called an audit mark that shows how the ballot was read by the tabulator, the votes which were counted, along with a timestamp detailing when the ballot was physically scanned. The original ballot image scan shows one file name and timestamp, and the ballot image of the second scan shows a different file name and a later timestamp. That same ballot has been scanned twice, thereby producing two uniquely identified ballot images, and both have in fact been counted in the CVR cast vote record, which is posted on the SOS website. So the question is, why was the McGowan team permitted to present misinformation such as this to the board without being challenged other than by Dr. Johnston? I think, okay. Mm-hmm.
I have two things, and I want to share with the board what they missed out on because we were not allowed to speak. Mr. Chairman, I want to ask you again, maybe, why were you so obstinate not allowing the co-complainants to rebut? Were you given direction by the Secretary of State or Ms. McGowan, but you just seemed so against, and being a person of leadership and industry for many years, certainly understand common fairness. Why were you so opposed to giving us response time? Can you answer that? Was somebody telling you to do that, or was that your own choice?
I don't, it was my second board meeting ever with this board.
Doesn't matter. Fairness is fairness.
I don't recall exactly what the rules were at that time with that board and why, but I seem to recall that the complainants were not offered opportunities. And you may ask Dr. Johnson. And
did you think that was fair personally, sir?
Pardon me?
Did you think that was fair personally?
Well,
be honest, John. Was that fair? If you had to do it all, let me give an out. If you had to do it all over again, what would you do?
My mindset at that point is totally different than my mindset 2 years later. Okay.
Okay. So that's what I'm asking. If you had to,
it was my second meeting chairing the board.
Okay.
And I was trying to conduct the board in the way that the board had been conducted in the past.
Okay, whatever. Yeah, you can't talk your way out of that one, man. The fraud cases are piling up across multiple states. It's becoming clear it's a systemic issue. James Woods puts the final scope into perspective. Easily half of our national debt is Democrat fraud, if not more. Posting the meme, starting to feel like 38 trillion in national debt is actually 38 trillion in fraud. And look at the usual characters there. Woods nails the scale of the problem, and now we're seeing Democrats trying to eliminate oversight entirely. The Virginia bill is perfectly timed to help cover future fraud. Steve Petrus writes, after Somali fraud scandal, Virginia Democrat pushes bill killing oversight of nonprofits. What do you know, huh? Virginia Democrat. No oversight at all Think about what happened if that bill passed, inserted by a Democrat, too. The timing is suspicious right after the Somali fraud scandal breaks. Democrats want to kill nonprofit oversight, but let's get back to the key players in the Minnesota case. Here's a reminder that the ringleader in the Somali fraud case that the Republicans are talking about is this woman here. Court clears a path to seize millions in assets from Feeding Our Future ringleader. Amy Bach, founder and executive director of the nonprofit organization Feeding Our Future, arrives at the Minneapolis federal courthouse on March 19th in Minneapolis. Now we're seeing the mastermind behind the scheme, and the allegations are about to get much more serious. The convicted ringleader is making explosive claims about who knew what. Here it is. The convicted ringleader of the Minnesota $250 million welfare fraud claims local Democrat officials were aware of the operation, including Governor Walz and AG Ellison, according to Fox News. Ready for this?
Convicted ringleader of the $250 million Minnesota welfare fraud scandal, telling Fox News she believes the state leaders knew taxpayer money was being stolen and did nothing to stop it.
But I guess, how high up do you think the message went that there was fraud? Like, do you think it made its way to the governor's office?
I struggle to believe it didn't. I have to believe that the governor's office and Keith Ellison's office were aware of this. They've said they were involved in helping the FBI. They've said they were made aware.
A spokesperson for the state attorney general responding, saying in part, quote, treating the words of a convicted fraudster like Amy Bach as though they have any credibility is shocking. She is a liar, fraudster, and manipulator of the highest order who has never acknowledged or accepted her guilt.
Yeah, of course, that's how Ellison's office would respond, because she's a convicted felon. So, what, you're not going to trust him? No, she knows exactly what was going on. She knows where the bodies are buried. Now she's singing because finally other people are under the microscope. This is the smoking gun. The ringleader directly implicates Walz and Ellison, but there's more testimony coming to back these claims. Tim Walz is not some sort of freedom fighter. He's a guy who's enabled fraud, maybe participated in it. I don't care what Tim Walz says. I care about getting to the bottom of the fraud for the American people. The headline on Fox News, Vance calls Walz a joke, claims Minnesota governor enabled the massive fraud. I'm certainly believing that too. The fraud enablement allegations are devastating, but wait till you see what happened when these criminals got silenced. The courtroom drama, unbelievable. Justice wins from daycare dollars to decades behind bars. Somali defendant asked judge, can you just deport me after 30-year sentence for child care fraud? Nope, you're going to serve it here. The sentencing was only the beginning. Now we're getting confirmation from the mastermind herself about high-level knowledge of the scheme. Amy Bach, the mastermind behind the largest COVID fraud scheme in the country, says she has to believe Governor Walz and AG Ellison knew about the massive fraud as it was occurring. Alexis McAdams, TV. I think we have another shot.
And a Fox News alert also in Minnesota. The convicted ringleader of one of the state's biggest fraud schemes is speaking to Fox News from behind bars. Now, she believes that the scam was no surprise to local Democratic leaders, and she's naming names. She spoke to Alexis McAdams. Hi, Alexis.
Hey, Dana. Yeah, so everywhere you look in the state of Minnesota, right, there seems to be another fraud scam. So this one involves Amy Bach. She's a Minnesota woman convicted of fraud for taking taxpayer money that was meant to feed hungry kids. But listen to this. Bach tells me the real issue here is the state of Minnesota, which she says kept giving scammers your taxpayer money even after they were flagged as fraudsters.
I have to believe that the governor's office and Keith Ellison's office were aware of this. They've said they were involved in helping the FBI. They've said they were made aware. But apparently I'm scary, so they couldn't do anything.
So Bach ran this nonprofit called Feeding Our Future. You might have heard of it. It was one of dozens convicted in this $250 million scam. You can see her mugshot there. Prosecutors say this group set up sham restaurants. They pretended they were making these meals. They got paid by the state for those meals, but they just pocketed the cash. Bach, who's looking at 30 years behind bars, tells me the state signed off on those businesses, not her.
It all went through a process. They were all approved. They were all paid by the state, yet all the fingers are being pointed at me.
And it's not just Bach. Whistleblowers told a congressional committee Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and Attorney General Keith Ellison there ignored warnings for years as millions of dollars and millions were stolen on their watch. Congress is investigating a long list of massive fraud schemes in the state. It's hard to keep up. Prosecutors say it's led to at least $9 billion in fraud, Dana, and counting. Congress also asking why the Attorney General there would meet with a group of Somali fraudsters, which were under FBI investigation in 2021. The group can be heard in an audio clip given to us by Bach's lawyer offering to donate to his campaign if he can help them get their funding flowing again. Ellison denies any wrongdoing here. He slammed Bach in a statement to Fox, calling her a liar and manipulator, adding now she's on a media tour to deflect her guilt onto others instead of finally taking responsibility for this fraud scheme that she ran. So we reached out to Governor Walz too, Dana. He didn't get back to us. House Republicans say it's just getting started. They want to subpoena Walz and Ellison because they say they're responsible for ripping off American taxpayers.
Well, incredible interview. Thank you for bringing that to us. Alexis, Paul Morrow is here, and he's...
Amy Bach's admission that Walz and Ellison had to know is damning. But the money trail gets even more suspicious when you look at Keith Ellison's legislative history. Wall Street apes. Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison has been pivotal in the money laundering operation. He only sponsored 2 bills that passed along Congress. One was the Money Remittances Improvement Act that eased international remittances for sending money overseas back to Somalia.
You just have met officials from the Somali money transfer companies and officials from Franken Bank. What was the discussion about, Congressman?
Well, first of all, let me say salam alaikum, Ilyas. It's good to be here with you with the Mogadishu Times. The discussion focused on how we can keep money flowing to Somalia.
How we can keep the money flowing to Somalia. Ellison's money laundering legislation looks extremely suspicious in hindsight, and the cash smuggling operations show how the stolen money was moved. Here's the proof. Busted at MSP, Somali scammer caught smuggling $800,000 cash through TSA in a suitcase straight from taxpayer-funded scams. How much more is flying out undetected? Check this out.
Now, please keep your hands where we can see them. It's just money for my family. Wallahi, I don't do nothing wrong.
You're transporting over $500,000 in undeclared currency. We have to seize it.
I need it for home. Please, I beg you.
Ma'am, you're being detained right now. Turn around for me.
Oh, wait a minute. I just got had. That was a frickin' Sora video. Oh, my goodness. Okay. Okay. All right. I should have been a little bit more careful on that. But anyway, here's the smoking gun, and it changes everything. J.D. Vance went nuclear, calling Walz a joke, who didn't just enable fraud. He might have participated in it. The ringleader herself says she has to believe the governor's office knew $800,000 in cash caught at one airport, bills written specifically to help money flow overseas, and a coordinated cover-up reaching the highest levels of Minnesota government. And while that video may have been generated by Sora, it clearly illustrates the point. You see, the Minnesota welfare fraud scandal isn't just about stolen money. It's about a systematic betrayal of American taxpayers by the very officials sworn to protect them. When governors and attorneys general are potentially complicit in $250 million fraud schemes, we're not dealing with simple corruption anymore. We're looking at organized betrayal at the state level, where your hard-earned tax dollars get funneled overseas while American families struggle. The evidence keeps mounting, the cover-ups keep unraveling, and the swamp creatures keep getting exposed. Every revelation proves what we've known all along. They're not just incompetent, they're actively working against American interests. So here's my question. Do you think Tim Walz knew about this massive fraud scheme all along? And hey, check out the Next News merch shop for gear that shows you are fighting back against the swamp.
The system controls information. Information control is power.
They don't want you to see this.
The truth only survives together. They don't want this shared. Share this now.